are live. This is the market update. I'm your host, Bill Noble. If you need a roadmap in crypto, subscribe to this brand new channel. Turn on alerts so you know when we're going live on important days like today. And of course, if the content works for you, hit the like button, share the screens, and tell your friends that I'm back on YouTube. Somebody on my Twitter yesterday was like, Bill, when are you coming back to YouTube? And some dude was like, bro, he's already there. So tell your friends, right? And of course, as always, I appreciate everybody who comes in regularly. We're a little later today because of dramatic market events. So hopefully our friends in Europe, we're not keeping you up too late. Richard Barry from Augusta, Georgia, first on the stream. Rugby Performance Labs, Crypto Lion, GF is here. Welcome. Joseph Ryan, Crypto Crazy, Willimeter from East Tennessee. Seth is here. Good afternoon. Reverend Flashback, what's up? Rave Song Records from Chicago. Seeing some new names and some old names. We have Slosh On. Robert Wiley from Jersey. Right on. Jersey in the house. All right, what are we going to do today? I'm going to tell you. We're going to do this slowly. There's Andre wants to know, still long ETH? Yes. Let's talk about that. Don't worry. Still long ETH. Let me tell you why. There's a lot of news in crypto to digest, right? There's the debauchery and corruption of SBF, right? The Binance story seems to have gone away. And then there are developments in the macro world. Anybody remember Bitcoin maximalists going long crypto, short the banks? Or do you remember your favorite YouTuber going, hey, let's try gold and silver? Picture of me on my IG yesterday at crypto.noble outside Texas Precious Metals Depository picking up silver from my daughter who's going over to Europe, and I may remember to tell you why I'm more worried about that now than ever. And crypto and metals are tied in. So on one hand, right, you have SBF and the unbelievable corruption involved with that. Okay, I'm going to let everyone else handle that. If that has already been traded, then people are sleeping at the wheel on crypto. Now, of course, it makes for great news. I mean, you know, I know some guys that were able to go to the Bahamas and get some exclusive interviews. Love those guys. Great work. Okay. Especially given the debauchery, making sure it never happens again. But there is news that happened today. And it is news that the crypto world is probably not going to understand. It's even complicated for the legacy world, even though legacy loves complicated, right? Guys who understand complicated stuff and legacies are always like, you know, I'm super smart. But in crypto, I got to get all this complicated stuff across to a different audience, all right? So we have Brody is here, Bull Runner in the house, welcome, right? We have Ashton, right? Crypto Clubhouse, GLDN is here. FOMO Rod giving me some notorious love, appreciate that. Okay, Brody is like, you know what? We don't have enough viewers. Well, we probably have less viewers because our normal time was about 3 or 4 hours ago, but that's okay. Those guys will come back and those guys will check it out. And if this thing about the Bank of Japan is as big as I think it is, we're not going to have to worry about live stream attendance or shorts, because I did a short on YouTube, and actually the one that's doing better is on TikTok, crypto_noble on that platform. However, we're here on YouTube, so let's just, we're just going to get busy right now. Okay. Now, there are things happening in the macro world that you need to know. The first thing is U.S. banks are getting emergency loans from the Fed. Once upon a time, the Fed created something called the discount window. Okay. There's a discount rate. The Fed moves that around, you know, as it changes interest rate. What is the discount rate? Well, literally in the old days of Wall Street, banks would send clerks to this window at the Fed. They'd knock on the window, the shutter would come up, and the clerk, on behalf of some bank, would ask the Fed for a loan. Right there. Okay, it was called the discount window. Now, no one uses the discount window unless there's a disaster. Matter of fact, if somebody finds out that you went to the discount window, they're like, oh my God, such and such is in trouble. Well, this is the second Bloomberg article this month. One of them yesterday going, hey, billions and billions of dollars are being borrowed at the discount window. Somebody in the banking system in the United States is getting rescue loans. What's that about? What's that about? Is that like FTX exposure? Or is it a separate legacy debacle? I was on a stream last night with Blockchain Crusader, okay, at Debate Crypto. And one of the things they talked about was, you know, when is it over? Like, when do you know it's time for a crypto rally? Or even if it's like a 3-week kind of rally that eventually fades, but like, how do you know? And one of my answers was, you know, when you find out what the Fed broke with rate hikes, right? Because what's been theme on the show, right? They're just going to go too far. Too far. And then something's going to break, right? Tech stocks, housing, whatever. The Fed's got a long list of things it can break. It's got a long list of things it can break in the past. This is evidence that someone is breaking. Now, the Japanese central bank has lost control. Control of what? Control of the interest rates on their bonds. A lot of people don't know this, but, you know, if you look at it relative to what they produce, you know, Japan has a massive amount of debt. So massive that they have to try and control interest rates. So here's an ugly fact. It's nowhere close to this, but if rates rise to 3% in Japan, 100% of the Japanese budget would go to paying interest on their debt. So if rates go higher in Japan, it actually hurts the country's solvency a lot. And we've got the same problem, but we haven't taken the measures that the Bank of Japan has had to take. And you're like, what measure is that? Well, here's what they've done. When interest rates rise, bond prices fall. Okay. So how do you keep interest rates from rising in Japan? Well, you buy up all the bonds that everyone would sell. How do you do that? Well, you just print the yen. You just print the yen and use it to buy everyone's bonds so that bonds don't go down and rates don't go up, right? Sounds easy. You just print and print and print and print. Okay. Well, guess what? That never works. Mr. Market, the genie wants to get out of the bottle. The Fed is jamming rates higher. Everyone is raising rates. And the Bank of Japan is doing the opposite. And last night, they capitulated. They capitulated and they said, we are going to stop printing the yen. And what happened when that happened? Okay, if you look over here at the size of this move, on like an 89-minute chart, okay, that's not an altcoin. Okay, this is dollar yen. Dollar yen is probably, dollar yen meaning the exchange rate between the dollar and the Japanese yen, probably one of the biggest instruments in markets. One of the most important things out there. It's like the relationship between like the number 1 or 2 and 3. So let me say that again. So if you have, you know, 3, if you're in the top 4 of like the size of your economy, the currency relationships between those 2 countries is massively important. Now, the dollar versus the yen. So the yen mooned. Okay, this is the dollar versus the yen. The yen mooned and the dollar collapsed. And you're like, okay, wait a minute. So this is the yen mooning. Okay. And this is the dollar versus the yen collapsing. And you may say to yourself, Bill, wait a second. I thought that when the dollar went down, that was good for crypto. And it was good for gold. Yeah, bro, that's exactly what I'm saying. So all you need to know about the Japanese interest rate gymnastics is what was said in that tweet. They have lost control, and printing the yen isn't going to work anymore, so they're just going to stop. They're going to stop printing the yen. And that's going to make the dollar go down and the yen go up. Now, when the dollar goes down, what should happen? Well, let's see. Let's take a look at the board here. We should see silver up. We should see Bitcoin up. So here's silver. Okay. Doing its own little God candle. Okay. And probably off this God candle, let me just label this chart. How long have we been pounding the table on this? You know, there's like, I don't know, sometimes there was 700 people on the stream. Last company I worked at. So those people are having a little trouble finding me, and that's okay. Because guess what? With the way this market's been trading, they're going to find me. They're going to find me, and I'm actually very happy that everyone is here who has found me, because I have been absolutely pounding the table on this idea of silver. And you're like, Bill, who cares? I'm like, well, let me tell you who cares. ETH loves rallies in metals. When metals get going, ETH gets going. Do you remember all this talk about, oh, ETH is deflationary, and, you know, oh my God, you know, there's so many reasons to want to own ETH. No one's talking about that anymore. And silver is doing a God candle. Why? Dollar lower, metals up, right? Dollar lower, crypto up. But everyone's real hesitant, right? I don't know. Is Binance, is there a problem? Are we going to focus on the bad news? What news are we going to focus on? That is the question. So I look at my silver chart and I go, oh, look, it's trying to make a new high for the move. And then let's look at gold, which I can't convince anybody of because it's boring. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? How about we take a head and shoulders bottom in gold and we take it up to, I don't know. Let's draw this. It's a pretty busy chart. I get it. But there's definitely a head and shoulders bottom in gold, right? It's confirmed. They came back to the neckline. All right. They came back to the neckline here. So we'll go over this thoroughly because we're going to go slow today. So we have a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder. And this blue line here, let me see if I can make it a different color. Let's make it white. So that white line is the neckline, is what they call it. And gold broke above it and hung out there and was annoying, but now it's moving way past it, right? It's bouncing off the neckline in a major way. And if gold takes out that high, the target of the head and shoulders bottom pattern is like 2K. So you're just going to wake up one day in illiquid Christmas conditions and boom, gold's going to be higher. And all year I've been saying gold may be a 2023 surprise, but the real surprise could be what gold does in 2022, which we still have 10 days left. Now, back to what I was saying about the Fed breaking things, right? If you tighten rates and you raise rates to 4.5% and you threaten to take them to 5%, it's not the fact that you moved rates to 4.5% that breaks things. What breaks things is that you threaten to go to 5% and go higher or harder and longer. And all of a sudden, crack. The banks are at the discount window. You cannot have a 4% move in dollar yen. I understand a 4% move in crypto is a joke. 4% in one day in a legacy instrument of that size is massive. People blow up. People blow up when that stuff happens. And it looks like people were blowing up earlier than that. because again, this rate hike cycle and legacy returns have been slowly breaking that system. Now, of course, everybody in crypto is like, Bill, you got to be kidding me. The whole system got nuked with FTX, and nobody ever wants to talk about crypto again because it's just been nuked so bad. I know. But the focus is on that news, not on gold and silver. Now, let's go over to ETH. Oh, wait, look at this. ETH is up 4% today. That's interesting. Let's head over and look at the DeMark work in ETH on the 90-minute chart. So one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is the relationship at how DeMark work defines a trend. So we talked, okay, there are the 9 signals and then the 13 signals, right? The 1 through 9 phase that you see here, that's called setup. So in a big trend, you'll have, 1 through 9. You're like, oh, Bill, what's a 1 through, why did those numbers come from? Blah. Where did those numbers come from? Well, you'll have a set of conditions like the high is higher than the high 2 days ago. DeMark work is very complicated. He was the original quant guy. So what will happen is you'll get a set of 9, you'll get a 9 count, as they say. And that's why they make that 9 big, because that can be important. In a range, it means it's probably a top or a bottom. But in a trend, it's the beginning part of the trend. So the theory states, you go 1 through 9, then you get a counter trend move, right? You'll get, wait, look at this huge, ugly reversal, right? That's the perfect theoretical response to a 9 setup. Then if it holds, you turn around and you go from 9 to 13. So here's a classic example on the downside, right? This was December 15th, right? You crack, you go 1 through 9, you get this bounce right here, and then it counts all the way down. We call this countdown. It goes all the way down, 1 through 13. Down, 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 down. And then there was another 9 bottom, and then FTX happened. So this was like a double heave in a way. So let's go over here. Okay, this is the 90-minute chart of ETH. It's like, all right, well, we went up. That's the first phase. We did the correction based on the theory. This says 4. Now we should have, 9 more 90-minute bars up. So this could be up only for 3 days, all the way up to, say, 1280 or higher. Because the dollar is done. It's done. Okay, Bitcoin, very similar. Actually, a lot cleaner, right? Here's your 1 through 9 on the bottom. Boom. Then you go up. Oh. Okay. Can you see the DeMark work now? Okay. All right. So hopefully you saw the DeMark work on ETH. If not, let me go back and just do this quickly. So this is the 90-minute chart of ETH. Okay. You have the 9 top here. You have the correction. And now a larger trend should begin. In Bitcoin, it's even cleaner. It's cleaner, right? It's perfect, right? You go up a 9, you have this ugly reversal, then you hold on this DeMark support point at 16.7, and now it's breaking a moving average above 16.9. Crypto markets love to go nuts around the holidays. They like to do things on holidays that are just like mind-boggling, and got no love on this anywhere. Mid-December, right around the 19th or the 20th, you've had major extremes. Bitcoin top 2017. Bitcoin bottom 2018. Okay. High uptick at like 60 or 58K last year. I talked about this being a 5-wave bottom. If you take out the sequential work, that's the countdown and setup work. This is a DeMark Elliott wave tool. Okay. In Bitcoin, this was a 5-wave. That was it. Done. Right. That whole down move was, we talked about this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. Trends happen in 5 waves, right? The 5th wave is normally a gigantic puke. This was the end of the world and CZ getting wiped off the map. Meanwhile, CZ is about this big if you compare it to what can happen with the Bank of Japan. Okay? Like literally. All right. Let me get back into my screen share here. All right. So you get the point. I'm going to put the sequential work back on the 90-minute chart. I'm sorry, on the 240. So I got nothing exciting going on the 240 or the 4-hour chart from a DeMark point of view. And again, we're pretty much doing this whole thing live TA style. Okay, so Ethereum on a daily chart, again, not a lot happening. Looks great on up days, looks bad on down days. But what I do want to do is I want to go over to the weekly charts. I want to go to the weekly chart of Bitcoin and Ethereum because I got some special stuff saved there, or so I thought I did. Okay, here it is. This is Ethereum weekly. This dotted line comes from something in DeMark called absolute retracement. Essentially, it takes DeMark theory and Fibonacci numbers and merges them together. So this line was drawn via an automated process. Interestingly, around 1150, they banged on this with Celsius 5 weeks in a row. And they banged on it down here 7 weeks in a row. So this was Celsius. This was FTX. Now, one of my theories was, up until I saw this Bank of Japan thing last night, was that they might do a final wick down in Ethereum before it actually took off. And of course, when you think, and this is classic, when you think, oh, I want to buy it, I'm bullish, so I want it to go down before it goes up. And guess what? It never goes down. You wake up and you're like, hi, okay, wow, dollar is lower. Gold is higher. Japan creditworthiness is in trouble. Everybody's like, oh my God, CZ. No, people, listen to me. Oh my God, Bank of Japan. Go back to this tweet, right? If rates rise in Japan, the Japanese budget could have, they could have problems. Is the market predicting a default by Japan? Well, not right this second, but that's possible. And then this guy is saying, is Italy, Greece, or the EU next? Right? Once this contagion starts, it spreads. Everyone's worried about crypto contagion being negative for crypto. What they should be thinking about is legacy contagion. That's positive for crypto. No one's talking about this because everybody's hip deep in the disaster porn from FTX. And of course, that's tempting. I get it. It's tempting, right? It's sort of fun, sort of, right? To dive into all the corruption and all the nonsense that went on there. Okay. The fact of the matter is, people need to return to price, right? What happened at FTX has nothing to do with the value of crypto. That's the problem, is that people have begun to associate what happened with FTX with the value of crypto. Whereas the value of crypto is the thing that's here for you when legacy blows up. Legacy is blowing up right now. I mean, if banks are at the discount window and the Bank of Japan has to change its interest rate policy because its bond market is going to blow up, I can't underscore how big that is. Meanwhile, in ETH, if you just want something simple, there was a new low in price, okay, and a higher low in the 13-day RSI, or the 13-period RSI, 13 4-hour bars. The point is price made a new low and momentum indicators did not, which means ETH can go higher. Now, look, if you look at this candle, right, this is part of the FTX or Binance debacle. Like, I don't really know that there's anybody home here until 1280. I'm not seeing any material resistance, right? And then the other thing I just want to look at just straight up and down on ETH that's interesting is that the 62% retracement at 1180 held. It was ugly. It was ugly. I'm looking at this. I'm like, oh my God. That's why I was like, are they going to crash this thing over Christmas? They can still do whatever they want over the holidays. But you got to be careful in crypto in thin markets, particularly since I think in the crypto verse, we're on this before anybody else. Like the legacy foreign exchange YouTube community is like, oh my God, Bank of Japan, biggest rug pull ever, right? They actually, as I understand it, they closed the Japanese government bond market. That was how people got rugged. They halted trading in the bonds. So people couldn't get hysterical when they announced that they were going to, you know, lighten up on their manipulation of the market. They have to. Hope they're paying attention at the Fed on this because I'm giving them a really hard time on Twitter. Okay. Bottom line is you got a new low in price in Ethereum and a higher low in momentum indicators. And I don't see any reason after holding 1180 why this thing can't take out 1290. Now it's got to get through 1230 first because I'm seeing ETH like not be particularly interested in that level right now, but that's okay. Because, you know, the Fed broke Japan. The tightening cycle is over. And that's the market update. No, just kidding. That could be the market update. They're done, right? The Fed cannot hike rates and blow up Japan. The Fed cannot hike rates and have everybody at the discount window and pretend this is not happening. Are you seriously telling me that the President of the United States wants a financial crisis at Christmas or Hanukkah or New Year's? They want a holiday debacle in the markets. No, they do not. The Treasury and the Fed are just going to start printing. They're already handing out money at the discount window, and eventually they're going to have to come in and back off the language. Okay, Driftless likes it when I lower the volume on the microphone for emphasis. They're going to have to print. They're already printing. That's why gold and silver are screaming. Now, crypto is a little bit slow because crypto's like, well, you know, I don't know about this. You know, stocks may not be good for stocks. I say F that. It could be bad for stocks. It could be. But it's the end of the tightening cycle. I don't care what Jerome Powell says. He cannot blow up Japan. That's it. Wrong against is the Fed is going hawktard. Exactly. They've been hawktard for a while. It's amazing. Like, don't these central bankers talk to each other on the phone? Like, how can Jerome Powell go off at a news conference and scare everybody? And then the Bank of Japan's like, oh, shit, what are we going to do now? Right? Let these guys talk to each other? Okay. Now, here's my favorite chart. I'm trying to get exposure for this. So this is a 3-day chart. So it's kind of like a weekly, half a week. The orange line is Ethereum. So let's just go over what's happening on the orange line. There was a huge spike top in ETH last year. ETH was at 4,000 and then ETH crashed. As ETH started to crash, the dollar was making a base. So ETH crashed, which was warning you about higher interest rates. And then the dollar slowly did its thing. And then the dollar went vertical, right? So ETH led the way. The dollar picked it up slowly. But when the dollar picked it up, the dollar moved to the point where it wound up on the cover of Bloomberg magazine saying the dollar is invincible and unstoppable. And that was right there at the blue line. And I was like, baloney. Not buying that. Now, in this current case, we have a sharp top in 2022. I used dollar yen. So the dollar tops out the way ETH topped out, like with that V pattern, you know, straight up, straight down. Meanwhile, ETH in orange is doing what the dollar did last time. So you had a spike up in ETH and a consolidation in the dollar. This time, you had a spike up in the dollar and a consolidation in ETH here in orange. And, you know, I think a lot of people think that ETH is going to like waterfall lower because it's not going anywhere. And all of a sudden, I'm like, well, wait a minute. If the dollar is going to collapse, doesn't that give ETH the chance to do what the dollar index did and basically go straight up? Like I was on the phone with a guy, CVO. I mean, he was talking about like, you know, maybe we get a new low, but, you know, he had the idea, we shared the idea that, you know, you could have ETH 3000 before you had ETH at 3 digits. So if ETH is ever going to go to 800, the only way to do that is to go to 3,000 first. Who's talking about that? Nobody. Everyone's talking about FTX and CZ. I mean, people literally are going to go back. If this actually plays out, people are going to be like, wait a minute. What was crypto Twitter talking about? Just like when Bitcoin was at 60K, crypto Twitter was talking about 100K was a given, and you should have been selling everything. Crypto Twitter was telling you everything was fine in April. Not that I don't like crypto Twitter, but again, who are you trading with? The herd or not the herd? To see or not to see? That is the question. This show, we help you see, right? On the way down, ETH led the way. ETH topped, dollar based, dollar went up. This time, dollar tops, ETH based, ETH should catch up. Hopefully, that made sense. Let's see, how many times can I say this? We've been waiting to see what would break from the at Federal Reserve's idiotic rate hike cycle. Looks like the answer is the dollar. In crypto Twitter is obsessed with bad news. Everybody forgot about the market. Ethereum and gold should moon. Okay. And, you know, just to drive it home, pretty funny that people thought that people were so focused on SBF and CZ, they forgot about BOJ, which is the Bank of Japan. And somebody, I totally get it. If you're in crypto, you're not going to know what the BOJ is. Just like the people who are into the BOJ or Bank of Japan, who know what that is, didn't know who SBF was before this week, right? And somebody goes, hey, what's BOJ mean? I totally get it. Absolutely great question. That's why I'm doing this kind of slowly. The Bank of Japan, like the Fed for Japan, they've lost control of their bond market. Their insurance companies, their banks, they all own these government bonds that if they start to fall in value from rising rates, you can have massive solvency problems. It's as simple as that. You're like, Bill, why were they trying to control interest rates? And why were they doing whatever they were doing? Well, they were doing that to avoid a debacle in their financial system. And I hate to tell you this, folks, but if there's a debacle in their financial system, there's a debacle in ours, as in the United States. So this is not making this up. Billions of dollars in Fed discount windows suggest all is not well in banking. So when I look at this and I look at this ETH chart and I see ETH perched on this 1150 level, I'm like, hey, let's give crypto a chance. Okay? Because I'm looking at this right now, you know, silver's up 5%, gold's up 1.75%, and ETH is up 4% and not budging. You know, a lot of times when these cryptos, you know, when they're not going to go up, they kind of go up and then they just sort of falter. And then ironically, like just looking at Avalanche, like, you know, just throwing this out there. You know, yesterday we were talking about the worst case scenario. And it's funny that even I forgot that if you took out, say, 1214 in Avalanche, there's one thing that people aren't getting here is that if there's a problem in legacy, crypto benefits from that problem. Like if metals lead and crypto follows, The worst case scenario I had yesterday for Avalanche was like 990. Okay. It would be really interesting to see what would happen if Avalanche took out 12. In other words, if this structure is negative, but then the structure turns, you got to start thinking about that. Because again, if silver's up 5%, this is a 4-hour chart of silver. If silver is acting like this, ETH should follow. If silver is up only, ETH should follow based on the math that we've done. Okay, Wrong Again wants to know why our bonds are breaking. Okay, good question. So, this is not particularly good for U.S. Treasuries. All right, this is the wild card for crypto. So this is, U.S. long bond futures. Okay. So if the yen goes up, the dollar goes down, right? So if you're a Japanese investor, if the dollar is going down, there may not be an incentive to buy bonds denominated in the dollar. So in other words, people are afraid in the U.S. bond market that there may be less demand for our bonds from Japan. Let's just put it that way. So, bonds correct. I think the other reason that bonds may correct along with, or stocks may do nothing, is because when the Bank of Japan prints all this yen, well, it has to go somewhere, right? And a lot of times it goes into U.S. assets. So if you stop printing the yen, it's almost like this source of sugar gets cut off. Now, that's the bad news. That's probably why crypto is like, bonds not trading well. So crypto's like, oh, okay. Because I think otherwise crypto would be up 15%. Crypto may wind up 15% because this trade may not be over. Right? That's why I'm constructive. Now, again, just to make things clearer about what does need to happen here is that these Bitcoin mining stocks have got to stop falling, right? This is HUT, right? These are alligator lines. Okay, just cannot get a break in these Bitcoin miners. Okay, I think if there's a problem out there in crypto, it's the Bitcoin miners. But here's Marathon Digital, right? It's very far away from its alligator moving average, which means it's very oversold and very stretched out. And would it be funny if everyone was looking at CZ, everybody was looking at the Bitcoin miners, whales moving Bitcoin to an exchange with their finger on the trigger, ready to sell, and this whole thing just turned around and reversed. Now that would be sick. That would be Max Payne. Okay. Wrong Again saying similar divergence in Avalanche. Yes. Okay. Okay. Quinn says the Japanese government is preparing to introduce a system for companies to pay salaries digitally without going through bank accounts by spring of next year. Okay. We have Bubba in the house. Brick Dreams. Hello. Welcome. Okay. Always nice to see everybody. Driftless Crypto says if Japan defaults, China walks in. Okay. Nobody knows what happens if a sovereign central bank can't pay its bills. Nobody knows. Right? In other words, in 2011, it was the governments, the fiscal part of the governments, that couldn't pay their bills. So then the ECB just came in and printed and absorbed all the debt of all the countries that were having problems paying their bills. But no one has done the math as to what happens if a central bank blows up, or if a central bank is not able to manage a private sector blow up. That's really what's going on here, right? In other words, what's the next blow up? Well, the next blow up is central banks. Legacy can always print its way out of a problem, can they? What happens if they can't? Well, I'm guessing you have to buy a truckload of gold and silver because that's the original, like, kind of safe haven argument. Now, if we go to ETH, okay, and we go with an argument that I've been trying to make, even though it's unbelievably painful, okay, this is ETHE, Ethereum in the equity market. These blue lines are the changes in season. So this is the winter solstice coming up tomorrow. So it's like the astrological version of Christmas or Hanukkah. It's a change in the seasons. It's summer if you're in Australia, and it's the winter solstice if you're in the North American hemisphere. My observation is that, you know, these seasons, right, it likes to go up and then down. There it goes. In the fall, it was like up on the merge, down on FTX. Now I'm thinking it's up on gold, on yen, on legacy. CZ, FTX, SBF, all of his cronies. Everybody has forgotten about Satoshi. We should be talking about Satoshi and his vision, okay? Because his vision was to create a monetary system that would function the next time everybody went to the discount window. But that's not what we're talking about at all. Meanwhile, back in the United States, where everyone thinks the dollar can't go lower, okay, NPR is reporting on the hearings about what happened with the former president, okay, that there are going to be charges related to that. Obstruction of an official proceedings, conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to make a false statement, conspiracy to defraud the U.S. by assisting, aiding, or comforting those involved in an attempted coup. So, as you know, this individual recently released NFTs. This individual is also going to take on a big social media company, and his account, which was suspended for 2 years, is due to be reevaluated for reinstatement in about 14 days. So if you think you can't have social disorder or more political discord in the United States, please think again. Again, it makes the case for crypto. And ironically, this individual has an NFT collection where people who like him will be able to vote yes or no by bidding up or selling the price of his NFTs. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried agrees to be extradited to the United States. Who cares? I know, that's crazy. I know, that's crazy. I'm a price guy. I'm not just a TA guy. I want to trade the news. I want to trade the next story, not the old story. Visa teases Ethereum collaboration. So much for crypto being dead. Now, let's talk about dead or not dead. So this is a 30-minute chart of GLDN. GLDN is a micro-cap fledgling project. Okay, I'm the director of research for the group. GLDN is a token that you basically do two things with it right now. You hold it and you're able to get airdrops related to things like a silver token, a water token, or a water futures contract that's being developed. And interestingly enough, to increase membership, GLDN basically gives holders a reward in Pax Gold. Now, again, the tokenomics not sustainable, but very interested in precious metals, very interested in physical metals, very interested in small cap plays. Last night, there was a huge selling climax in GLDN. And right now, we're discovering whether or not people are going to come in and start buying dips, because it's been, it's been a very painful downtrend in this. As people have either given up on gold or given up on the GLDN narrative, which I think is crazy, because GLDN is the gateway to water futures. One of the reasons why I like bringing this up now, because I don't bring it up every day, one of the reasons why I think it's bringing up now is, does crypto have that speculative punch? In other words, if I'm giving you a shot at gold and water at a sub $10 million market cap and people are not interested, well, then that'll tell you one thing about the market, right? The market's still not in the mood, okay? Mike, good morning from Australia. It's nice that we were able to catch you. Our friends in Europe are probably going to be pissed, but I'm glad our friends in Australia, it's working out for you today, okay? Language Trainer says Blu Arctic does things and builds things. Yes. Blu Arctic, BARC, is the water contract. And the only way to buy the water contract is to use GLDN. It's not an ETH pair. It's a GLDN pair. So if you believe at some point in the future there will be need for a water futures contract, and the GLDN group is working on getting that water out of Greenland, it's my 401k. My daughter's going to medical school. Last night, when they were doing all this selling gymnastics, I doubled my holdings in Bark. Okay. I'm not showing the chart of Bark. I'm just showing GLDN. But Bark, BARC, is the water futures contract. If you want to see more about it, okay, I believe it's bluarctic.xyz, or you can come in the Gold Retriever Telegram group. Simple as that. I got into this. Somebody's like, yeah, we're going to do water. We're going to try to use water for price discovery. I'm like, okay, I'm in. I like it. I believe in it. So we're going to see, though. We got to do TA. We got to be objective. Let me see if I can refresh this screen. Okay, I'll come off the screen share. We'll see if I can refresh the screen. Okay, I know GLDN on, say, a daily chart has got some nice looking GANN work. Which I do want to share with you, but let me just stall for a little time while I bring DEX tools back up again. So let's review what we've been saying. The dollar may have broke. Dollar yen, dollar may go down. Right? The Bank of Japan is in trouble. Somebody in the legacy market is in trouble. Seriously. They're at the Fed borrowing money. Why? No one is asking why. Everybody wants to know where, like, the lost FTX money went, but nobody is asking questions about what's going on in legacy and why crypto was invented to begin with. Okay, here comes the GLDN daily chart. Now, one of the things I did here was I drew a Fibonacci retracement. Okay, and then I drew GANN fan lines right through the center of the retracement box. This was actually after the fact. I would have been like a psychic genius had I drawn it sooner. But the GLDN low last night at 55 cents was right on an 8x1 GANN line. Okay. And I'm going to be honest with you. Watching this, this thing went all the way up, all the way back down. It has not been fun to watch this thing. People just give up on it. But the 8x1 GANN line did hold. And anybody who's looking at this, right, you want to see organic demand start coming in. And if there's got to be organic demand. There doesn't have to be, but you would think there would be, because you got a God candle going on in precious metals. So there's a small cap way to do it. And if you don't like the small cap way, let's go back over to Pax. Okay. Let's just like, hey, you can do gold your way. Do it your way. Right? Now, Pax is a slower moving instrument, but that's been a good thing. You know, dealing with 0 to 5 to 55 cents, that's emotionally gut-wrenching. But that's small caps. Right? And one of the things that I'm looking at is when everyone is done selling crypto for tax loss purposes, right? Christmas Eve is Saturday. So you got to think anybody who's going to do anything will have it done by Friday. And if people start buying gold and stop tax loss selling, that could create a move in illiquid conditions that could surprise people. It's really weird the Bank of Japan would pull something like this right at the Western holidays. If Legacy has to make a market adjustment, or maybe that's what they want. Maybe they're just like, you know what? Federal Reserve, blank you. Stop burying us because you mismanaged your monetary policy. You got to think about that. Yeah, Japan's got its problems, but should the Fed have the right to bury one of our allies? No, they shouldn't. So, gold, Pax, you know, I like this. You've basically taken no heat on this since November. Like FTX, everybody blew up. Gold just sat here. So I'm hoping that people wake up and say, all right, you know what? This is boring. And I'm like, you know what? Boring is good. Boring is good. Eddie Brown is here. Reverend Flashback, welcome. Okay. Ashton says, yeah, we're at max pain. Okay. Wrong again doesn't want social disorder in the United States in January. I don't blame you, man. I'm patriotic. But these two sides, they just can't stop fighting. Okay. Stanford University releases a guide and saying that certain words are harmful language, including the word American. Now, the rationale is not ridiculous. There are lots of countries in North and South America, but does a leading university really need to publish that? You know, and there's all kinds of other words that I don't know if I want to go into. There's like the initiative is called the Elimination of Harmful Language Initiative. That's right here. Okay. So I'm really all about people having their rights, but we just all keep fighting with each other. And I don't understand how people can think that that's bullish for the dollar, right? Like there's the Stanford language playbook, and then there's NFTs about a former president. And then charges filed against him, and everybody just continues to fight against each other. Now, I have opinions about this, but this is a crypto channel, so, you know, I can talk about it a little bit. But to me, it equals dollar lower. You cannot have this kind of stuff. You cannot have the Fed making mistakes. You cannot have the administration making mistakes. And you can't have the people at each other's throat and think that that's good for a currency. Okay, Lord Junta is here. Welcome, giving me the notorious love. Okay. And Ronnie says, hit the like button. So on your way out, hit the like button. We're going to be doing exclusive work for the Gold Retriever community tomorrow and Friday, most likely. So we will actually be back on, we will also be back on YouTube in some capacity. So the stream is here 5 days a week. Shorts, crypto.noble on Instagram, crypto_noble on TikTok. Each one getting a little different angle on all these issues. And of course, there's the stream. So we appreciate you tuning in. I'm Bill Noble. We'll see you tomorrow.